Hey everyone, so today we're going to take a little bit of a look at Fusion 360 and some of the ways to get started, especially if you have some experience with 3D modeling through either Inventor or through Onshape. So Fusion 360, when you open a new file, right, when we open it, it'll be a new design. We can use this to create base parts and bodies, and very similarly like the sketches and pieces that we would make in either Onshape or Inventor. So I'm going to show you at least some little bits of how to get to all of the same pieces that you would from those other two programs. So first things first is we currently just see our work plane here. We need to start with a sketch, just like in Onshape and Inventor. We can create a sketch or click on the create a sketch option, and it will actually show us our planes, similar to the way Inventor pops your planes open. So we can choose whichever plane we'd like to work on. Let's say this time I'd like to work on this one, and it'll bring us flat to our sketch plane. So again, similar to Inventor. So in here, now our ribbon has changed to our sketch ribbon, and we have a sketch palette over here, which is a little different. That gives us some extra info. But for right now, we're just going to worry about the ribbon at the top here. We have our create panel, modify panel, some constraints, inspect, insert, select, and so forth. Okay, so if we need to create shapes, we'll come to our create panel. Our most used will be at the top here. We could make our shapes, we could make rectangles and circles, and we can add our measurements as we create. So when we click to place the center point down, instead of clicking to put down the size for now and then typing like in Onshape, this is much more like Inventor, where you click for the center and then you have to type before you click again or before you click enter. All right, so that you can give yourself a dimension. With this create panel, you can actually click it and it is a drop down. So similar to how Onshape has lots of drop downs for their many tools, this has drop downs in the panels themselves. So we can actually see our sketch dimensions is at the bottom of this panel here. Sorry, that's my dog's tail. So we can click on sketch dimensions if we wanted to add any other dimensions to our shapes here. Right? So let's say we wanted to add a couple lines. We can zoom out. I'm just using the scroll wheel to zoom out on my mouse, and then I am clicking in the scroll wheel to pan. You can also see these tools down in the bottom bar down here. But to make some lines, we could make some lines. We can click. If you see, there's a little checkbox that you can create and continue instead of needing to go click on our tool or click the escape key. One of the advantages of our line tool here, similar to Inventor, would be the fact that if we click and hold, right, it'll let us make arcs. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, so then we have a profile here. Okay, and as we have our profiles and our various shapes and lines, we can finish our sketch. All right, and we can start to create things in 3D. If you've noticed, this actually does leave us flat with the plane of our sketch, similarly to Onshape, instead of moving us back out to our isometric view or our home view. Up to you how you'd like to change your views, but from here we can use our extrude, our revolve, our whole tool, many of our creation tools. Again, similar in Onshape where it has all these drop downs, except in this case it is the whole piece, this whole panel that drops down. So we have our extrudes, our revolves, our sweeps, and so forth. The majority of what we'll wind up using for right now is in this little chunk right here. So let's say we wanted to extrude, maybe we'll extrude to this little shape right here. And if you notice, it brings up that tiny dialog box again, similar to Inventor, but also has our menu box over on the side that gives us our more specific details and things we can change. So let's say we wanted this to be 10 millimeters. We can type, we can hit enter or OK, and it'll create an extrusion, a body from that piece. So, but we had so many other things in that sketch. So let's say we wanted to go back and use that sketch again. if we think about how we've done this in Inventor and in Onshape, we can go take a look at our browser on the left. Okay, our browser looks a little bit different since it doesn't really have that much of a background, so you can still see behind it. But we actually see a little arrow for our sketches, a little folder here. We open the arrow, and then we have sketch here that we can change. So if we double click here, just like in either of the other programs, we can come back and edit whatever we needed to do. Let's say we wanted to add some constraints, make some things equal to each other, or parallel, or however we'd like to do. We have constraints just like in the other programs. So let's say we wanted a couple of these lines to be parallel to each other. Maybe we want our circles to be equal to each other. Okay, we can go use our constraints to edit that sketch. Okay, I'm going to accept. But now we still actually want to use this again. So if you notice, just like Onshape, there's this little eyeball for visibility. We can click to toggle our visibility with this little eyeball button. In Inventor, that is the one different one, where that was where you had to right click, but it does have some information for visibility in here as well. Okay, so once we can see the rest of our shapes again, we can go and we can maybe create some revolves where we click on our profile, we choose the cursor for our axis. It will let us change our degrees if we needed to. Say we only wanted 260 degrees and we wanted it to go, in 2 different sides, and this will go in just 20 degrees, and we can click OK. Okay, if you notice, we can create different shapes just like before, just like in any of those other 3D modeling programs we've used before. Okay, there are modification tools as well. All right, so when we're talking about modification, we're talking about our fillets and our chamfers or our shells. There are more options for modification in Fusion 360 than we've used before, at least for my class. So in here it gets a little dicey depending on what you are comfortable with. But we do have our fillets, our chamfers, our shells, and so forth. So let's say we wanted to fillet some of our edges here. Okay, we can give ourselves some curves. We can give it a chamfer if we wanted to make that flat cut along the edge here. All right, and these are at least our general basics. If we need to rotate, remember you need to come up to your view cube to actually do any rotation. If you're just trying to use your cursor, you have some options down here, but at least for the general movement, it's not like Onshape where you can right click, because remember in Inventor and in Fusion, right click does bring up our context menus. And then other quick basics and things you need to know. So we have our sketches that we've looked at editing, but what if we wanted to edit the revolve here? So usually for most of Onshape and Inventor, we'd come look on our browser on the left and it would say revolve 1 or something similar. We'd be able to edit it in there. So in here we see sketches. Okay, we don't really see features. So if we open our bodies, if you notice, we see the 2 pieces we've made, but these don't let you edit them. So let's say I wanted to hover over this circular donut thing. Usually the double click or the right click and edit would allow us to change things, but in this case this is seriously just talking about this whole piece with all the changes we've made to it instead of each step we've done so far. So if we want to do something and edit like the revolve or the fillet, we can actually come down to the bottom here. Okay, down here it's kind of neat. We actually have a rewind and play. It's an interesting menu that lets you kind of see step by step what things have happened throughout your development process here, but it also allows you to see the features that you've created. So we can come back through here and double click and go and edit the features that we've created. So let's say we wanted to change this, just to go back to one side again and accept, and we'll go back and change that info. We can also still right click and edit the feature as well, similar to how it works in Onshape and Inventor in the browser, but either way the features are down here. You have suppression just like in Inventor, and I believe actually Onshape. But we have suppression, we can delete it here if we need to. There's options down in this portion. Okay, so at least for right now, that is going to be it for our couple basics, and we will have some more videos showing the next little bit soon.